This morning on the Ag Issues program, a pleasure to bring on to the program Kansas U.S. Senator Jerry Moran, who joins us on the program this morning. Senator, good morning. How are you?
Greg, good morning. I'm still catching up on my sleep, but other than that, I'm doing fine.
Oh, I bet, most definitely. And, well, this is a very big week this past week as far as what happened both in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. But as far as the Senate is concerned, the Senate passed as part of the Senate Budget Reconciliation Bill, better known as the One Big Beautiful Bill, that took place in the in the morning of the early part of the week as well. A tough process, but a process nonetheless that was done in a fashion that going it over to the House, getting it done by what the president's stated goal was to be able to sign it on 4th of July holiday, which indeed he's going to do this today.
Well, Greg, yes, it was a significant week in the United States Congress. The Senate acted on a House bill, on a bill the House sent to us, made our changes and sent it back to the House. And yesterday, the House accepted the Senate changes, and the bill is moving forward to the president. This is called reconciliation. That's a process under most circumstances in the United States Senate, not the House, but the Senate. It takes 60 votes, more than a majority, to pass legislation. But there's an exception to that rule. And it's something called reconciliation. And what it means is that you can reconcile, if you pass a budget, which we did, you can reconcile your spending to that budget. And it can be done with 51, a simple majority. And that's what was going on here. And while a number of issues have received, the most attention, this bill was really designed to make certain that the tax cuts that were put in place 10 years ago remain in place, and so that there wouldn't be a tax increase in 2026 that's expected to save. Had we not done that, the average tax bill in Kansas for a family would have gone up by $2,400. And some things that agriculture particularly cares about in the tax code, the estate tax, inheritance tax, would have gone back to its old provisions, which would have included a lot more farmers and ranchers and their property subject to estate tax upon the death of one of those farmers or ranchers. But it's generally restoring those tax provisions. And to do that, you have to find the savings to offset what those tax costs, the tax provisions are expected to spend. That was where this really starts. That's the beginning. But from an agricultural point of view, what I would say is that because we've been so unsuccessful, and you may remember one of the times we visited on this program, I was a member of the Committee on Committees, and this year I put myself on the Senate Ag Committee. With the goal of making sure that we completed a farm bill. And the political differences between Republicans and Democrats in the Senate, perhaps a little less so in the Ag Committee, really prevented a farm bill from occurring. It's been going on for a long time. And now the provisions of the farm bill that we have agreed upon have been included in reconciliation and passed now on its way to the president for a signature. So in a sense, I don't know that you'd call this the farm bill, but it is the farm bill. And I think Kansans have been somewhat unaware that something really important to our state is included in this legislation, the farm bill.
And let's get into that as well, because of the point that going back to this is the second year of extension of the farm bill itself. So there are really so many things that needed to be updated as far as what we're seeing right now with the current situation with the farm economy and with prices, reference prices, and everything else associated with it.
Greg, absolutely. I mean, we really couldn't wait, shouldn't have waited. It's sad that a farm bill has become so difficult to accomplish. It used to be one of the places that the partisanship was generally set aside. It was sometimes regional and crop differences. But this legislation, the reconciliation bill, invests $64 billion in agricultural programs and provides an update in reference prices, which is really one of the top priorities of mine to see accomplished. And what we're talking about here is Title I of the Farm Bill, the safety net, and the challenges we face in Kansas and across the country have been input costs have increased so dramatically. Fertilizer, fuel, natural gas, transportation, labor costs, taxes. And so the reference prices that determine the safety net value to a farmer haven't been updated since the last Farm Bill 6 years ago. And the world has changed as far as the cost structure. Those increases were in Kansas, we could talk about wheat, corn, sorghum, soybeans. All those reference prices increased, which will provide a greater safety net in this difficult environment. This is some of the most challenging times in agriculture, and you particularly add the drought that we've experienced in Kansas. This is a major success, a significant success for Kansas agriculture. So the safety net has been improved. There's a number of disaster programs included, particularly for livestock producers, permanent increasing in conservation funding, something that I was interested in, particularly as we look to ways to use conservation to try to ameliorate the dramatic consequences of drought, to try to figure out how we farm in dry circumstances. Ag research has received money on it's actually a bill that I introduced, is included in this farm bill that increases the money for infrastructure for research facilities in Kansas and across the country. And crop insurance provisions, we provide greater federal support for crop insurance to keep premiums from rising, to keep the premiums lower than they otherwise would be, so that particularly beginning farmers, but others can better afford crop insurance. And so, in addition to that, a significant investment in animal health due to some of the significant challenges that we face in disease and certain circumstances that spread around the globe. So, in an agricultural sense, we've really taken the provisions that were most necessary for from a farm bill and included it in this legislation, which will soon become law. And I would highlight that a couple of things more specific in regard to the Title I. There's a one-time voluntary allocation for new base acres for farmers who do not have a base or are planning excess of their current base. We've had this conversation many times, and I've had this conversation with many Kansas farmers about the opportunity to update base acres. And in 2025, this crop year, landowners will receive the higher payment between ARC, and the PLC program. And again, conversations with farmers, difficult to know at the beginning of the year what you should choose for the safety net provisions, whether it's ARC or PLC. And in this year, it will turn out to be in many circumstances, the farmer will receive the higher of the two, which should be, again, a benefit in this particularly difficult year of 2025. So those kind of things, the payment limitations was altered to improve in the sense of S corps and LLCs and joint ventures have this, and as general partnerships will have the same payment limitation, which was increased from $125,000 to $155,000, and then will be adjusted for inflation. So just a number of items that, again, receive little national news, but really important to the state of Kansas. And we're trying to make certain that our farmers. I mean, I'm a rural kid, and I care a lot about what happens in rural Kansas, all of Kansas, and it takes success in agriculture for us to have a future in most of our communities across the state.
You know, going back to the tax provisions as well, another thing for farmers is a long-standing issue, battle, however you want to describe it, with some or definite relief as far as the death tax is concerned.
Yes, you are, absolutely right. The death tax is the one place where, farmers are particularly, agriculture is particularly susceptible to having high values of assets upon a farmer's or rancher's death, but not the income to pay the taxes. And the consequence is land gets sold, equipment gets sold, farms get bigger and bigger. And so it was a a significant win. In regard to the tax code, I also would add something that I should have talked about earlier. Ethanol, the extension of the 45Z clean fuel production tax credit, it was extended through 2029, providing a dollar a gallon credit for biofuels, including ethanol, biodiesel, biogas, SAF, that are made with the feedstocks that we produce here in Kansas. So another success. I chair the SAF caucus. I wish we could have done better in that tax credit. We'll work to try to make things better, but it is equal now. The SAF credit is now equal to the other tax credits for biofuels. SAF is the opportunity I think Kansas has to grow, and that is combining agriculture and aviation and provide sustainable aviation fuel for the airline industry, one of the growing demands around the globe for grain-based fuels. So again, the tax code is altered in ways that save us upon our death, save us money, and keep our farms perhaps in the family, and we can earn more of a living because of the tax code's support for biofuels.
Kansas U.S. Senator Jerry Moran is joining us on the program. And Senator, as we look at a couple other things concerning specifically for farm and affecting the farm bill currently as well, one of the things, too, that was part of the investment on the second Senate reconciliation bill, but now obviously the bill that's going to the president's desk, is the increased investment in animal health programs.
Absolutely correct. I mean, we've seen disease as a significant issue. Our livestock producers have been very adamant, very much lobbying for additional support for the necessary research and response to and pandemics that have occurred and may occur in the future. So this legislation makes permanent a number of additional investments in animal research. It provides $233 million for animal disease prevention and management, a large priority, a significant priority of our livestock and animal sector. And I also mentioned the legislation that Ag Research receives $125 million in permanent funding in mandatory spending for grant applications from our land grant universities to improve their infrastructure. So many, and you can see it here in Kansas, at Kansas State University, where they're undertaking the effort to upgrade their facilities in animal science and animal research, as well as crop science and research, where the buildings and the infrastructure, the technology needs to be updated. And so legislation to do that, that I and Senator Hirono introduced is part of this bill, and we'll have the opportunity for more dollars coming to the infrastructure of animal science and research, as well as crop.
The other side of this, Senator, as you well know, was the discussion, the long-standing discussion concerning the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, better known as SNAP, which is a part of the Farm Bill itself. There had been plenty of discussion on that as well. From the other side, a lot of it negative as far as the cuts to SNAP savings. How do you look at what the next steps are as far as the overall discussion within getting a new farm bill with regards to SNAP savings?
Well, I mean, what we were looking for in SNAP is there are ways that we can find reductions in SNAP spending that don't affect the people who are utilizing SNAP that should be utilizing SNAP. Nutrition assistance to individuals and families across Kansas and the country. And so what was included is doing our best to make sure that there are work requirements for able-bodied adults who receive SNAP, who aren't caring for young children, and who aren't contributing to their communities through service, put them on a track to being fiscally and financially independent. That's the if there's I don't know that the word is major, but that's the change is to work requirements to be enforced. But there's a whole lot of exceptions for who has to work and still receive SNAP benefits, and it's designed to make sure that people who can and should do so. The other part of that is the elimination of those who are here illegally from participation in that program. Those were the cost savings, plus just changes in how states administer the program. And while there is an increase in the state's contribution, so Kansas will include I think the number is $65 million increase in the cost of SNAP programs in Kansas for the state of Kansas to participate. The other component of that is administrative costs. And if Kansas will lower its error rate, we have a kind of in the middle of the road error rate, meaning that the decisions that are made on who receives SNAP aren't as correct, aren't as precise as they should be. And if they make those changes and enforce the rules of SNAP, Kansas can get its error rate lowered and wouldn't be impacted by any increase in cost in the administration of the program. So it's an incentive for states across the country to do a better job of making sure the right recipients, those who are eligible, are the ones who receive the benefits.
Kansas Senator Jerry Moran is joining us, and we've got just a couple of minutes left, Senator, as well. You had talked about how much of this is a part of the Farm Bill program as well, but yet we still need a new 5-year Farm Bill. So setting that up going into before the September 30th deadline, how does that set up for the Farm Bill committees as far as what needs to be done here before the upcoming September 30th deadline of the extension of the Farm Bill?
Greg, really good point. And the farm community needs some additional certainty. The things we did in this bill are permanent, which helps farmers and ranchers make decisions about the future. But we need to get the circumstance. What I would say is that maybe the controversial provisions, particularly related to SNAP, are now addressed in this reconciliation bill, and the rest of the Farm Bill, which is less controversial between Republicans and Democrats, we can come together. And John Bozeman, the chairman of the Senate Ag Committee, a senator from Arkansas, and his Democratic counterpart, Amy Klobuchar, are really two legislators who are easy to work with, are senators that work together. And I still remain hopeful that we can set aside the differences in that the Democrats did reconciliation themselves when they were in the majority. They used reconciliation to do a lot of environmental and green programs that were controversial between Republicans and Democrats. The SNAP program is controversial between Republicans and Democrats, as it's always been. And now those two things have been addressed, and maybe the rest, the normal kind of Farm Bill issues, can be resolved in a really bipartisan way. I certainly hope so.
You sound more optimistic that something can get done before that September 30th deadline?
Greg, I'm always an optimist, and we'll do everything we can to make sure that it happened. I also would add that Medicaid has been a significant issue, and rural hospitals are important to farmers and ranchers. And we have provisions in that bill that really do increase the amount of money that's available for health care delivery in hospitals in our state. And that any reductions in that availability of those dollars is postponed for 2 years. And so things are, as the media portrays, this Medicaid received a lot of attention to try to make certain that our rural hospitals, there's a $50 billion fund that'll be worth about $1 billion a year for the next 5 years to Kansas hospitals for those that are the most significant financially challenged. So wouldn't want to forget our hospitals in Kansas, and wouldn't want to forget the farmers and ranchers who utilize those hospitals and keep our communities alive.
All right, sounds good. Senator, we are out of time, but as always, great to talk with you. Have a great 4th of July holiday, and we'll talk to you soon.
If I don't see you sooner, I'll see you at the Kansas State Fair, and I wish everybody a great, safe 4th of July, Independence Day. We have a lot to be thankful for.
Kansas Senator Jerry Moran is joining us on the Ag Issues program this morning here on 580 WIBW.